A very good morning, children. Hope you're all following all the classes, all the sessions, because each and every class is connected with each other. Each and every class is a continuation of the previous class. So if you don't watch the previous class, you will not understand this class. So we are posting these classes in the YouTube also. So that's why I want you to go through all the classes if you have not gone through them. If you have really missed yesterday's class, please watch the video and then watch this video, because this is classification, and if you have watched the yesterday's session, you will be able to watch this session, understand this session. So I want everybody to watch the previous session before watching this session, because you need to know what are the terms which you are going to use now. Whatever the terms which are going to be used now are the terms which we have learned in the previous class. So that's why I want everybody to concentrate and listen very, very carefully, that too with utmost concentration. Okay, children? Okay, that's great. Now, coming to the yesterday's session, we have learned about the Carolus Linnaeus, right? The person who belonged to the 16th century. He classified all the organisms into two groups, right? So one is Carolus Linnaeus. He divided the all the living organisms into Plantae and Animalia, right? And this Plantae are nothing but the flora. That means all the plants. Animalia in the sense fauna. That means all the animals, right? So now these were the only two divisions. These were the only two divisions in Carolus Linnaeus classification. So now the classification, not only he did it, he divided the animals into first kingdoms. Now these are the two kingdoms, Plantae and Animalia. Then he divided them into phylums, then into class, then into order, family, genus, and species. So these are the words which we are using in the classification, and all these words are coined by whom? Coined by Carolus Linnaeus, right? So already yesterday we have seen an example of the lion, and also we have seen how it is divided, isn't it? So now today we are going to see the classification of another scientist here, another biologist here. Okay, so now his name is Thomas Whittaker. So Carolus Linnaeus classification, that is the same year 1758 is the year Carolus Linnaeus proposed the his kind of classification with the two divisions. But whereas in the year 1969 there came a biologist whose name is Thomas Whittaker, and he has brought another kind of classification. Now already we know that there are two divisions in Carolus Linnaeus classification. Already we know that it is Plantae, okay, and the next one is the Animalia, right? And now what Thomas Whittaker did is he added three more kingdoms. He added fungi, Protista, and Monera. He added 3 more kingdoms, Monera, Protista and Fungi, to the previously existing kingdoms, that is Plantae and the Animalia. So Animalia and Plantae are already existing. Okay, now here what Thomas Whittaker did is he added 3 more kingdoms. One is Monera, second one is Protista, and third one is Fungi, and the fourth one is Plantae, and fifth one is the Animalia, right? So now here, on what basis did Thomas Whittaker divide these 3 kingdoms? Why? On what basis did he add these kingdoms, and also what his classification is based upon? On what idea the classification is based upon? That is what we are going to see now. Okay, now Thomas Whittaker said division is based on the true nucleus. So his observation is based on whether the organisms possess the true nucleus or not. So if the organisms has the true nucleus, they are called as the eukaryotes, where the nucleus is distinct. Okay, where you can find the perfect nucleus, and then there are the an organism which doesn't have the true nucleus. They are called as the prokaryotes. So these prokaryotes will not have the true nucleus. So on the basis of the presence of the true nucleus, that is eukaryotes and prokaryotes, he divided the organisms into different kingdoms. Okay, so what he did here is the organisms which are unicellular, okay, the organisms which are unicellular, let me rub this one. The organisms which are unicellular and also possess the true nucleus. So the organisms which possess the true nucleus and also which are unicellular, he kept them under the group of Protista. That means here you can see that the organisms are here unicellular. They contain only single cell. Only the single cell will carry out the functions of the body or the single cell, and also it has the true nucleus. So basing on this fact, he divided the organisms, he classified them and kept under the kingdom called as Protista. Okay, so the next one is, now what are the organisms which are unicellular and also which doesn't have the true nucleus? Okay, true nucleus not present. Okay, those organisms he kept under the kingdom called as Monera. He kept under the kingdom called as Monera. Okay, so now coming to the third kingdom, that is the fungi. Now if you come to the Plantae, here the Plantae are the autotrophs. Here these 3 are divided on the basis how they acquire the food materials. On the basis how they will acquire the food materials, how they will get the food materials, right? So now here if you take the plants and all, they are called as the autotrophs. Why they are called as autotrophs? Because they are able to synthesize the food material on their own. They won't depend upon any other organism for their food material. So that is their way of procuring the nutrients. So here that's why they are called as the autotrophs. So now here these autotrophs, all the plants here are the autotrophs because they are able to get their own food material. So they doesn't need to depend upon the other organisms. Now coming to the Animalia. Here Animalia in the sense, these are the organisms which are dependent. These are dependent. So that's why these are called as the heterotrophs. That means these are not able to prepare their food material. So they never prepare their food material. So these heterotrophs are completely dependent upon the autotrophs for some or the other reason. So for the energy of the food and for each and everything, they are dependent upon the Plantae or this kingdom or the autotrophs. So that's why these heterotrophs, okay, are the organisms which depend upon the autotrophs. So here Animalia has this kind of character. Okay, this is how they procure the food. This is how they get the food. Plants know, like they prepare their own food material through a process called as photosynthesis. synthesis. So that's why, what are they? They are autotrophs. So now here when you come to the group called as the fungi, here it is a bit different. Now this fungi cannot prepare their food material. They cannot prepare their food material. Okay, and moreover they depend upon the other organisms for their food material. So that's why they are called as the heterotrophs. Now if they are heterotrophs, they should be under the group of Animalia, isn't it? They should be under the group of Animalia. But here the interesting fact is that, okay, these are the animals which are heterotrophs, but they, unlike the animals, they what they do is they break down the food materials outside and they absorb the food material through their body surfaces. Body surface. So animals, what they will do is they will hunt the food, they will eat the food, they will take the food, they will digest, they will do, okay, that's a different process in animals. That is how they procure the nutrients. But whereas in the fungi, okay, you know, so there is no ingesting process here, there is no masticating process here, there is no grinding process here, okay, nothing. So what they will do is they simply break down the large organic molecules outside their body, and what they will do is they will live on them. Simply they will break the organic molecules. Now what are organic molecules? Here you can take the glucose is an organic molecule, amino acids, proteins are the organic molecules, fats are the organic molecules. So whatever the food molecules are there which are organic, okay, and now you can take the cellulose, okay, this is also organic complex food material. So whatever the food materials which are there in the environment, they directly depend upon them, so they will directly break those materials outside the body. Whereas if you take our human body, when you eat food and all, they will go into your body and they will get digested in your body. The molecules, the organic molecules such as glucose or amino acids, carbohydrates, proteins and fats, they will directly break down in our body, isn't it? And then they will be absorbed by the blood. But whereas here, the whole process is done outside the body. The whole process is done outside the body, and then these organisms called as fungi, they live on them. That means they are plants, but they have the characters of heterotrophs. That's why he could not put them in the plantae, nor he could put them in the Animalia. So that's why he has kept this particular fungi as a separate kingdom. So on this basis, now there are 5 kingdoms. One is the Monera, which are unicellular, but there is no true nucleus. And then there is Protista, they are unicellular and they have the true nucleus. Okay, and one more thing here also, what I would say is, the next is the fungi. In the fungi, they are the plant-like structures, but they have the characters of the heterotrophs, right? What they do is they will break down the organic molecules outside the body and live on them. That's why they are put in a separate group. And then coming to the plantae. Plantae are the autotrophs which prepare their own food material. And coming to the Animalia, they are completely dependent on the heterotrophs and they will eat the heterotrophs and they will live. So this is how he divided. Who is that? Thomas Whitaker. He classified the organisms into these many groups. Like how many kingdoms he divided? He divided the animals into 5 kingdoms, right? Now, so the classification which is done by Thomas Whitaker is really good. Okay, it's actually really fitting. But whereas when you come to Carus Linnaeus and all, he has only 2 kingdoms, right? Now, where you will fit these three different kinds of organisms, where you will fit them? Now, they don't fit in that, isn't it? They won't fit in the animals or the plants, because animals and plants and all these bacteria and the other protista and fungi, they have the different characters, isn't it? So they are with the different characters, they possess different characters. So that's why they won't fit in the first 2 kingdoms which are done by Carolus Linnaeus. But now, whereas when you come to this system that is done by Thomas Whitaker, this classification by Thomas Whitaker seemed really very good, and everybody they appreciated that and they started following this from the year 1659. Now, as science began to advance, as microbiologists they started observing so many things under the microscope, so many characters of the different prokaryotes and the eukaryotes. Now they said that this model is also not absolutely perfect. There are some defects in that. Okay, they are not, this classification is not at all perfect. There are some problems here. Now these microbiologists told that the prokaryotes which are here, let me rub this now. Prokaryotes, in the sense, already we have seen that there is no true nucleus, and these are also the unicellular, right? So these organisms, okay, they are extremely distinct in their internal structure. Distinct in their internal structure. Their internal structure is absolutely different if you compare the one organism with the other. That is the first thing. And also some of these prokaryotes, they are able to live in the hot springs where the temperature is above 80 degrees centigrade, above the boiling point sometimes. Even it is above the boiling point. So they are able to live in the hot springs, okay, which are called as the thermophiles. That means some of the bacteria are able to live, or some of the prokaryotes, like, which are divided under the Monera and all, they are able to live in the hot springs. So that's why they are called as the thermophiles. Okay, and some of them are able to live in the extreme cold conditions also. Extreme cold conditions. Okay, and some of them are also living in the extreme salt conditions. So some of them are also living in the extreme salt conditions, okay, which they called them as halophiles. So the organisms, like some of the prokaryotes, some of the bacteria, are able to live in the hot springs, okay, they are called as the thermophiles. And some of the different characters, like they are able to live in the extreme cold conditions, okay, and some of them are they are living in the extremely salt conditions, which are called as the halophiles. Now these three, if you observe them, they are completely having the different characters, isn't it? So now coming to only prokaryotes, if you observe only Monera, now you can find these three different organisms here. Okay, so these organisms, like, they are absolutely different from the bacteria which you basically study in the prokaryotes. So when you talk about the monerans, the best example what you take is the bacteria. Now these three different bacteria are completely different from the traditional bacteria which we are learning. Okay, so that's why now there was a chance to make some more modifications in the Whittaker classification. So the biologists of this century, they started making modifications. They modified, they not completely changed the model, but they made some modifications, like, which made the classification more and more easier, more simplifier, right? So they simplified the classification. Okay, so that is what is the biologists, okay, and their classification. Okay, we are seeing here, we have seen two different classification here. One is Carolus Linnaeus classification, and second one is the classification done by Thomas Whittaker. And if you observe the table 57, page number 57, which is in your textbook, here there are several different biologists who modified the classifications. Okay, Haeckel in 1866, he said there are three kingdoms. Chatton in 1925, he divided them into two kingdoms, Prokaryota and Eukaryota. Copeland in the year 1938, he divided them into Monera, Protocysta, Plantae, Animalia, four kingdom model. Whittaker in 1969, right now, he divided them into 5 kingdoms as we have studied till now. Okay, and then Oisei et al. In 1990, he said that there are 3 kingdoms. One is bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. And in 1998, Cavalier Smith, 1998, he said that there are some 6 kingdoms. Okay, bacteria, protozoa, chromista, plantae, fungi, and animalia. Like this, modifications were done after Thomas Whittaker has done the classification. So already we have studied about the scheme of classification yesterday, right? So what is the scheme of classification? So this is a very, very important question which basically appears in the examinations. Okay, so now what we are doing, what we are going to study is the, so what we are going to study here is the scheme of classification. So in the scheme of classification, okay, now we will talk about the, right, species. Species are the single organism which we have already studied, right? Species, so like there in this, now it's only one single or one group of organisms, right? The next one is the genus. What is the next one? Family. Order. Then comes is the class. Then comes is the phylum. Then comes is the kingdoms. Okay, and then comes is the domain. Then comes is the life. So all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These 9 divisions are called as the scheme of classification. That is how the scheme of classification is done. So the scheme of classification will contain, like, no, first there will be species where only one, like for example lion, only for example tiger, only for example leopard, dog, cockroach, only one organism, right? That group will be present there. And similar kind of organisms will be in the genus. More similarities family, more similarities order, more similarities class, more and more similarities phylums, and then the whole organisms are one kingdom, right? It may be Monera, it may be Protista, it may be fungi, it may be Plantae, it may be Animalia, right? And then all they come under the domain, and that the final one is the life. Okay, so now this is called as the scheme of classification. Okay children, so today we will end up this session here, and tomorrow is a very, very important day because we are going to study all the characters of Monera with examples, Protista with examples, fungi with examples, Plantae with examples, Animalia with examples. So all these 5 we are going to study tomorrow. Okay children, so until then, take care, have a great day, see you, bye.